Hello dear learners, welcome to the online course on functional foods and nutraceuticals. I am Dr. Mrs. Sabiha Wali, ex-professor in food and nutrition and head postgraduate teaching department of home science, Rashtrasant Tukdoji Maharaj, Nagpur University, Nagpur. We shall be discussing today non-nutrient effects of specific nutrients with respect to minerals. Now, we all know, learners, that minerals are chemicals, constituents used by the body for the maintenance of certain physiochemical processes which are essential to life. Although they yield no energy, they have important roles to play in many activities in the body. These must be supplied in the diet and vary from grams to micrograms per day for the macro and trace elements respectively. Anti-nutritional factors present in plants could also affect the absorption and availability of some minerals by humans and animals. The physiological role and health benefits of minerals discussed herewith include calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium and potassium, which are classified under macro minerals, and iron, zinc, selenium, chromium, manganese, iodine and fluorine, which come under the category of micro minerals or trace elements. Now, learners, after studying this module, you will be able to review the physiological role of macro and micro minerals or trace elements, as well as discuss the health benefits or role in non-communicable diseases. Now, let us first take up macro minerals, and under this calcium. Calcium, as we all know, is the main constituent of bones and teeth and has key metabolic functions to perform in the body. It plays a role in blood clotting, muscle contraction and relaxation, nerve transmission and cell membrane permeability. A lack of calcium is one of the main causes of osteoporosis, a skeletal disorder in which bone mass and strength are compromised. Now, with this brief introduction on the physiological role of calcium, now let us see what are the health benefits which research has put before us. Now, the first one is relation of calcium and kidney stones. Most kidney stones are composed of calcium oxalate or calcium phosphate. High urinary oxalate level is a risk factor for calcium oxalate stone formation. Now, adequate intake of calcium with food may reduce the absorption of dietary oxalate and lower urinary oxalate through the formation of insoluble calcium oxalate salt, thereby preventing the formation of calcium oxalate stones in the kidney. Now, coming to the role of calcium in cardiovascular disease, calcium has been proposed to help reduce cardiovascular disease risk by decreasing the intestinal absorption of lipids, increasing lipid excretion, lowering cholesterol levels in the blood and promoting calcium influx into cells. However, data from prospective studies of calcium's effect on cardiovascular disease risk are still inconsistent and not clear. Now, the next one is calcium and colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the most common gastrointestinal cancer. Prospective cohort studies have consistently reported an inverse association between dairy food consumption and colorectal cancer risk. Experimental studies in cell culture as well as in animal models have suggested plausible mechanisms underlying a role for calcium, which is a major nutrient in dairy products and which helps in preventing the risk of colorectal cancer. Now, role of calcium in lead toxicity. Children chronically exposed to lead, even in very small amounts, are more likely to develop learning disabilities, behavioral problems and have low IQs. Deficit in growth and neurological development may occur in infants of women who are exposed to lead during pregnancy as well as during lactation. Now, in adults, lead toxicity may result in kidney damage and high blood pressure. Adequate calcium intake could be protective against the toxicity of lead. Increased dietary intake of calcium is known to decrease the gastrointestinal absorption of lead. Once lead enters the body, it tends to accumulate in the skeleton and where it may remain for a long period as long as 20 years. Now, adequate calcium intake is known to prevent the mobilization of lead from the skeleton during the process of
bone demineralization,
thereby protecting the body from lead toxicity. Now, relationship of calcium to obesity. High dietary calcium intake is usually associated with dairy product consumption, and this has been inversely related to body weight and central obesity in a number of cross-sectional studies. Body weight and fat loss were significantly more reduced with high calcium diet as compared to the standard diet. Results suggested that while calcium intake may play a role in body weight regulation, besides benefits attributable to other bioactive components of dairy products, that is, there might be a role of proteins, fatty acids and branch chain amino acids in reducing obesity. Then coming to role of calcium in taking care of premenstrual syndrome. Now, premenstrual syndrome refers to a cluster of symptoms that include but are not limited to fatigue, irritability, moodiness, depression, fluid retention and breast tenderness that begins sometime after ovulation, that is in the mid cycle, and subsides with the onset of menstruation. Low dietary calcium intakes have been linked to premenstrual syndrome in early reports, and supplemental calcium has been shown to decrease symptoms severity. Now, currently available data indicates that daily calcium intakes from food and or supplements may have therapeutic benefits in women diagnosed with premenstrual syndrome. Now, let us come to the next macro mineral, which is phosphorus. Phosphorus is concerned with several metabolic processes in the body, including those involving in buffers in body fluids. It functions as a constituent of bones, teeth, adenosine triphosphate, phosphorylated metabolic intermediates as well as nucleic acids. Now, phosphate buffers function in the formation of high energy compounds, that is ATP, and are involved in the synthesis of phospholipids and phosphoproteins. Now, let us see, besides these physiological role in the body, what are the health benefits of phosphorus? Phosphorus and digestion. Phosphorus is known to improve the health of the digestive system. It stimulates the digestion of riboflavin and niacin effectively. These vitamins in turn help to metabolize the energy and boost the emotional and neurological response system. It helps clear up indigestion, diarrhea, constipation, and in general tones up the digestive system for normal healthy bowel movements. Now, coming to health benefits of phosphorus as related to brain function. Concentration, memory and mental functioning can be improved by the consumption of phosphorus as reported by several earlier investigators. Adequate intake ensures cognitive growth and development. Phosphorus deficiency can lead to an early onset of neurological diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. It can also increase the risk of cognitive malfunctions. Now, phosphorus and hormone balance. Phosphorus helps in regulating hormone balance in the body. It helps achieve good reproductive health by ensuring that balanced amount of hormones are present. Phosphorus also interacts with the endocrine glands and thereby it helps to control the production and release of hormones in the body. Then coming to the next major mineral, that is magnesium. Magnesium is a constituent of both bones and teeth, as well as it is an active component of several enzyme systems in which thiamine pyrophosphate is a cofactor. Oxidative phosphorylation is greatly reduced in the absence of magnesium. Magnesium is also an essential activator for phosphate transferring enzymes myokinase, diphosphopiridine, nucleotide kinase and creatine kinase. It also activates pyruvic acid
carboxylase,
pyruvic acid oxidase and the condensing enzymes for the reactions in the citric acid cycle. This physiological role of magnesium reflects that it plays several important functions in the body. Now, in addition to this, magnesium shows several health benefits and let us see what these are. Magnesium and as related to migraine headaches. Now, magnesium may be an effective complementary treatment for migraine headache. Migraine headaches are likely to have a genetic basis. These type of headache disorders stimulate a mechanism deep in the brain that releases inflammatory products in the region of the blood vessels and nerves of the brain. Data from trials conducted for as long as 12 weeks suggests that magnesium is an effective therapy for migraine headaches. Now, coming to the relationship of magnesium to Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is the most widespread reason for dementia. We now know that due to the longevity of age, the prevalence of Alzheimer's disease has increased in the present days. Now, it has been reported that ionized magnesium concentration are significantly lower in group of subjects who have Alzheimer's disease as compared to their age match controls without Alzheimer's disease. The ionized magnesium concentrations were significantly related to cognitive function, demonstrating an association between ionized magnesium concentrations in individuals with mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. Now, role of magnesium in hypertension. Magnesium is involved in blood pressure regulation. Intracellular magnesium hinders the calcium depolarization, which leads to muscle contraction, thereby leading to vascular relaxation, hence a decrease in blood pressure. Magnesium might lower blood pressure by acting as a calcium antagonist on smooth muscle tone, causing vasorelaxation. Results of a meta-analysis summarize the association between magnesium intake and stroke risk and show a statistically significant inverse association between the two parameters, thereby highlighting the role of magnesium in hypertension. Now, coming to the next benefit, health benefit of magnesium as related to cardiovascular disease. The mechanisms proposed for potential cardiovascular benefits of magnesium intake include improvement of glucose and insulin homeostasis or lipid metabolism. Its actions as an antihypertensive, anti-dysrhythmic, anti-inflammatory, anticoagulant, then its effect on reduced vascular contractility and or increasing endothelium dependent vasodilation. It thus offers a potential health benefit in cardiovascular diseases. Now, role of magnesium in type 2 diabetes. Magnesium plays a significant role in glucose and insulin metabolism, mainly through its impact on tyrosine kinase activity by transferring the phosphate from ATP to protein. In addition, magnesium may directly affect glucose transporter protein activity, which is known as GLUT4. This is a key component of glucose homeostasis, and thereby it helps to regulate glucose translocation into the cell by virtue of this protein. Now, coming to the next macro mineral, that is sodium. Sodium, as we all know, is the principal cation in the extracellular fluids. It regulates plasma volume and acid base balance involved in the maintenance of osmotic pressure of the body fluids. Sodium preserves normal irritability of muscles, cell permeability, activates nerve and muscle function. Sodium is also involved in sodium potassium ATPase, maintenance of membrane potentials, transmission of nerve impulses, and the absorptive processes of monosaccharides, amino acids, pyrimidines, and bile salts. Now, learners, we have seen that sodium has a number of roles to perform in the body. Now, recent meta-analysis of randomized control trials on the effect of moderate sodium intake reduction documented a significant blood pressure reduction in adult hypertensive and normotensive individuals as well as in children and adolescents. Now, learners, we do have to remember here that if the sodium content of the diet is high, it aggravates hypertension. So, the benefit of sodium in the diet is at a low intake where it helps in blood pressure reduction. Now, coming to the next macro mineral, that is potassium. Potassium is the principal cation in intracellular fluid and it functions in acid base balance, regulation of osmotic pressure, conduction of nerve impulse, muscle contraction, particularly the cardiac muscle, cell membrane function, and sodium potassium ATPase. Potassium is required during glycogenesis and helps in the transfer of phosphate from ATP to pyruvic acid. Low potassium concentration in the blood, that is termed as hypokalemia, can result in muscular paralysis or abnormal heart rhythms and can be fatal. So, this underlies the importance of potassium in the body. Now, let us see what are the health benefits of potassium besides its physiological role. Number 1 is hypertension. Consumption of white vegetables is associated with decreased risk of stroke, possibly related to high potassium content. This has been shown by earlier investigators who have conducted research on dietary intake of patients suffering from hypertension. Now, increasing potassium intake to recommended levels by consuming a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can therefore help to lower blood pressure and may have additional benefits to health also, because fruits and vegetables have a lot of functional properties besides the nutrients present. Now, coming to the role of potassium as related to bone loss, bone benefit of dietary potassium is hypothesized through its effect on acid base balance. Alkaline potassium salts produced from metabolizing fruits and vegetables or potassium supplements, that is either potassium bicarbonate or potassium citrate, are thought to protect against bone resorption for pH homeostasis. High intakes of fruits and vegetables have therefore been associated with a benefit to bone health. Now, coming to the role of potassium with respect to kidney stones, abnormally high urinary calcium leads to a condition known as hypercalciuria, which increases the risk of developing kidney stones. Now, increased dietary acid load has been significantly associated with increased urinary calcium excretion. Increasing dietary potassium intake by increasing fruit and vegetable intake or by taking potassium bicarbonate supplements has been found to decrease urinary calcium excretion and therefore have a protective role in the development of calcium stones in the kidney. Now, we have discussed, dear learners, the major minerals, and we have seen that they have important role for their metabolic and regulatory processes in the body. The minerals we have discussed include calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium and potassium. On the basis of dietary requirement, these are divided into macro minerals needed in amounts of 100 milligrams or more per day, and trace elements required in amounts not more than a few milligrams. We have seen that each of these macro minerals offer several health benefits. Adequate intake of micro minerals have potential and diverse role in cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes, brain function, migraine headaches, premenstrual syndrome and kidney stones. It is significant to note here, learners, that the beneficial effects of these minerals in alleviating degenerative diseases are besides their physiological role in the body.